All right. Good morning, everyone. Brad Roltgen here with the Fresno Bitcoin and Cryptocurrency Investors Group. Today, Michael is going to share with us why he's considering selling a chunk of Bitcoin. Um, as most of you know who know Michael, he's been kind of sitting, hodling for years and years and years. So for him to consider selling now, I thought was interesting, and maybe we'll get a little more info from him.
Thought you were talking about Michael Saylor when you were talking about Michael.
Oh, no,
Which
not
kind of goes together, right?
Yeah, well, let me that on that
He did
note,
sell 2.5 million worth.
well, yeah, and
Yeah.
I discovered something new on CoinMarketCap. I haven't been on there. I don't go on every day or whatever, but I noticed something interesting when I pulled it up today. They now have these little green dots on here,
Mhm.
which correspond to some various news. So if we click on this one for here on the 30 or
Yep.
31st or the first, MicroStrategy sells, their Bitcoin, and look what happened
32.
after
They're going to
that
be good for.
kind of thing. So I thought that was interesting going back, even a year here, what happened when it started going up. You can kind of look back, blah 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 blah. So anyway, kind of interesting
Oh,
there.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, although hindsight is easy to see, but um, let me start our AI companion here in Zoom, and we'll see what that does for us. So Michael, I'm gonna unshare this. If there's anything you want to share, feel welcome, or you can just verbally communicate with us.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I've been holding Bitcoin for quite a while, 9, 10 years now. Most of my Bitcoin hasn't been touched in at least 7 years. And uh, it was always an asset for me. I'm not really a Bitcoin Maximus type of individual. A lot of people are. A lot of people look for it to do all kinds of other magical things. People love the ability to trade it and to share it, pay and transact without banks. And I see the benefit of that, and I see the marvel in that. And I think that's important because I think big banks um, have way too much control and way too much power
Amen.
overall. And so, but when I first got into I'm an investor, so. That's why I was in Bitcoin. Bitcoin was always a focus to pay off my house, and uh, that has always been my focus. And since my average cost over the years now is around 17,000 per coin, um,
Wow.
it's been a good investment. And I don't know, just recently, these things with the Clarity Act, it's taken a lot longer than expected. I thought that would have been passed, especially under this administration, months and months ago. And I'd heard, a month or two ago that the guy from Coinbase, um, who had had some issues with it, and of course the banks have issues with it always. Anytime they see a threat to their power, they're going to
Of
whine and
course.
cry about it. And now in adoption, that's another thing. I've been paying a lot of attention to adoption over the years. I still have great numbers of people who simply don't understand it. They've heard of it. Used to be people I had to explain it all to them. Now people have heard of it. I anticipated adoption to be much further along. Uh, it's not now. Is it further along in terms of people using smart contracts and things like that? Obviously, that's primarily in things like Ethereum, Solana, others, RXP. I thought adoption would be much farther along, and it's not. Large institutions, that's another piece that I thought was always going to be something that was going to be a very powerful motivator and driving force in Bitcoin. Personally, I think Bitcoin should be If it's correcting, which obviously it is, I mean, it should be correcting somewhere in the 150 to 180K range. And here we
Yeah.
just hit 58,000 yesterday. I did not think once we penetrated $100,000, I did not think that we would be breaching
Retracing
that.
50.
Yeah, it was 58 yesterday, maybe even
That's insane.
57. I went and saw Jim Gaffigan last night with my daughter, so I wasn't paying attention to it the whole time. He was funny. Anyhow, off subject. The thing is that the different elements that brought me into Bitcoin and kept me into Bitcoin honestly don't seem to be improving, even though there is a lot more focus and there's hundreds of billions of dollars that's in Bitcoin now. Where when I started, like $1 million order would jack this thing up, 5 or 10%. And now, I mean, $1 million is literally nothing. It's probably equatable to $1,000 purchase on our part. It moves nothing.
But
And
were they buying OTC back then?
there were no when I first started, there was no tradable instrument. And I believe it was December 2017 that they came out with futures contracts on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that too, I thought would be something that would help power it up. And what it did is that it gave people more power to basically short it and to push it down, if anybody remembers that time.
Yeah,
And
gain it.
it did the exact opposite. So a lot of assumptions that I had in place when I purchased this, some have come true, but more than not, they haven't. Now, my initial piece was a 5-year investment. I'm a much shorter term investor now, but 5-year investment, which took me to 22. And then I added another 5 years after that, which would be summer of next year. So, I mean, I'm obviously up quite a bit from what my overall cost is. But
Will you
I
get your house paid off?
no, but
Oh.
here's the thing. And guys, this has nothing to do with this has nothing to do with Bitcoin itself per se, but this deal with AI has changed my perspective on things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do have a little teeny bit of worry way in the back of my mind about AI and Bitcoin and the possible threat to it. Not sure if that's going to be something that will come to pass, but that is something that is definitely part of it. But excluding yesterday, which was an extraordinarily brutal day in the market, if anybody was watching that, NASDAQ down over 1,100 points. That's a very, very rare occurrence to have such a, I guess it was around 4%. One of the things I've been thinking about selling Bitcoin for is better use of assets. It really hasn't done anything or made me any money in the last few years. Now it did when it got up to 128,000 or 26. But I honestly believe that was I figured that we were just days.
I thought that was a midpoint.
Pardon me?
I thought that was a midpoint.
Yeah, I figured that was really kind of our launching pad to at least 150 to 180. Like I said,
Yeah.
I think we should be correcting into the 150, 180 range. And we're nowhere near that. Now, first of all, not first, but I also want to say that I still believe in Bitcoin. It's just I don't think that it's my main vehicle any longer. I don't think it's my main vehicle any longer. And maybe I'm a little bit clouded by how things have been going with my other financial assets. If anybody's been watching the last since around March 31st, basically at the bottoms, all my portfolios are doubled or more since the bottom there. Doubled.
Wow.
Okay. Um, and some of them,
AI definitely sucked all the air out of the room.
yeah, and then you've got, what else have you got going on right now? You have three of the largest IPOs
Massive.
ever. I mean, the three, here's the deal. The three IPOs, Anthropics, OpenAI, and SpaceX. I believe it's OpenAI. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But those three
It's
alone
insane.
equal more money
If you're
than,
not using Claude Code right now,
yeah. Who wrote Claude?
That's
Anybody?
Anthropic.
Anthropic.
That's anthropic. Yeah.
So, but my point was going to be is that those three alone represent more capital than the top 500 IPOs in the dot-com era. And I don't know how many of you lived through that, but I lived through all of that.
I did. Yeah.
And
The
so forth.
IPOs, it's usually not a good idea to buy at the IPO. Usually you want to wait until the lockup period's in, there's a big selling, and then it dips below the IPO price, and that's kind of when you want to buy. But yeah, the companies have a big runway here, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree with you there, David. You look at everything. You look back at what used to be the largest, which was Facebook. I think it IPO'd at $40, and then it went down into the teens, right? Of course, now it's huge, like $500-600. How many times has it split? So, um, so anyhow, you've got all these IPOs coming out, and I think a lot of money that is coming out of Bitcoin right now is coming out to be put into these IPOs. And so,
Agreed.
then there's a very basic practical need as well. I'm getting older, and um, I want to spend some of this money because I need to. And what's the freaking point of making money? What's the point of investing? What's the point of believing in something if you can't utilize it? Is it just
Got to be able to enjoy it.
yeah? Is it just a scorecard? I mean, I talk to my friends and I go, yeah, I mean, this account's up 143% and this account's up 264. I mean, okay, great. That's really great. But what does that equate to? Am I doing any good with that? Am I utilizing that in my own personal life or with people who I love and care for? And so, a lot of my reasons, um, I've given you guys a lot of the reasons here. We're in this generational bull market. This just doesn't happen very often in the way that we're seeing it. And the difference between now and the dot-com era is that most of those things, the biggest asset, uh, there was a guy had a sock and it was a dog and it had commercials. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
Pet.com. Its biggest asset was a guy's hand in a sock on $1 million commercials. Okay.
Yep.
That was their biggest asset. And everything that's in AI now, they're making billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars. So there's so much more runway to go. So
And it is insane how powerful it is getting and how fast it is improving.
absolutely. And I've been utilizing AI for the past 6 or 8 months in my business. And I had an instance this week where I had a customer of mine, Amazon, that one of the sites from Georgia sent me some things they wanted to do. And in a half an hour or 45 minutes, I came up with a design for them, sent it to them, and got big accolades for it, and I loved it and placed the order. Now, normally that would have taken time. I would have had to gone to one of the other members of my team and had it drawn and done. It would have taken days. in less than an hour, I had that done and I had it to them and I had it approved. Earlier this year, I had another situation that was the same type of thing. I took this fuzzy photograph of one of their events and had AI draw it in the way that I directed it to. I sent them to that. I sent them that on an item, and the next morning they sent back an order for $13,000 worth of backpacks. So that's how powerful AI is, and it's something that it's really bewildering in a way. The things that it does. I sent custom-made shoes to one site, and then they tell me, "Well, we own Zapatos." I go, "Oh, that's great." So I went on AI and I said, "Tell me how to do this, how to get in there." And after a series of questions, it started giving me inside information in a way, how to word things, how to direct to the right people, and so forth. It's a little off topic, but the point being is that there's different opportunities that are out there. I want to say one other thing here is I will not ever sell all my Bitcoin because I imagine that a certain portion of it is going to end up going to my daughters. That because I mean, Bitcoin will outlive me. And at some point in time, yeah, it'll be $1 million or more or something. But I got to look at it right now. I'm going to turn 67 this month. I'm buying another house, selling this house and buying another house. These are reasons why I'm seriously considering it. However, I do have to say, even since you and I spoke, Brad, I mean, Bitcoin's down like 15,000 since we spoke about this. Gosh, what was that, 5 minutes ago? Or I mean,
Yeah, it seems like it.
week or two ago,
Weekage
it was
down.
still in the 70s or something, or maybe even low 80s. And now, geez, we hit the 50s. I thought the low 60s, after we bounced off that and made it back to 90, I thought we were done with that. But I guess that was a false signal. So these are my reasons. These are my thoughts. I still 100% believe in Bitcoin. I just don't believe in holding Bitcoin to the bitter end.
Or not
I would,
holding as much as you do? Because you said you were going to never sell all of it.
No.
Okay. So, and the bitter end meaning when you pass from this earth?
Yeah, my the as recently as 6 or 8 months ago, I had reallocated my time from 2027 to 2030. 2030 was sort of a drop dead date for me that that a larger portion would be sold sometime in 2030 because I figured at that point we'd be solidly in the six figures. But with a lot of the things that I listed here, I'm my support is waning. I still believe that Bitcoin is an excellent asset. I just think there's better uses of these funds for me at this point in time. So
One,
that's my thought
I mean,
process.
you could almost sell that off, use that money, make a whole bunch more, and just go buy more Bitcoin with it.
That
Yeah.
occurred to me
If
as
it's going to
well.
keep kind of,
I also think you got to
you know,
kind of look at where the cycles typically go for both the stock market and for crypto. Like if you look on a historical trend, this is pretty much what always happens. Like where about midway between halvings, you kind of hit that, that winter where it drops really low, and that's exactly where we're at anyways. And then you have to look not only at that, but the stock market has been like you're right on a historic run. But what kind of happens typically after stock markets are on a historic run? They typically go into like a down cycle for like a year or two. No one really knows what's going to happen, but you have to kind of forward project like what's going to have more upside, whatever market you're looking at or Bitcoin. And I think we are kind of at that, it could still go lower, it could drop to 50,000, 40,000, very definitely possible. But I think we are kind of at that point where it's at that bottom and it's going to start kind of eventually gaining momentum back up. But I think part of the reason why it's dropped so much is just there's been a rotation where a lot of money is moved from like Bitcoin into other stuff like the tech market, AI stocks, and all that stuff. And then I think also there's been a ton of suppression because like Wall Street, all those big firms, they know that Bitcoin is like real estate where like you once you buy it, like there's not going to be much more available. Like there's not a bunch of extra Manhattan real estate available to buy, right? You have to buy it from someone else at a higher price eventually.
Yeah.
So they're trying to basically get as much as they can. They're always buying it
21
OTC
million
off market.
divided by every.
If all these ETFs were buying and all these huge institutional buyers were buying it from the market, the price would be at 300,000 or something right now. They're buying it off market where they're not affecting the
Yeah.
price. They're not hitting those order books. You know what I mean? So they don't want to do that. They want to buy it cheap, and that's why they're kind of keeping it down as low as they can so they can get as much as they can. So just my forward
Well, and they're
projection is,
pushing retail out.
yeah, I just think that it's going to go into a cycle where it's going to build momentum, probably starting next year, start kind of going back up. But you just have to think what's going to go up more in the future. You can't really look at the past. You can't be like, obviously, if you were looking from the peak of Bitcoin all-time high going to here, the stock market has crushed the Bitcoin returns, right? Everyone's 401ks, portfolios, they're absolutely crushing it, right? That's why Donald Trump keeps being like the stock market all-time highs, and he's right. They've actually killed it, but it reminds me almost of that kind of COVID bubble where like the stock market went to an absolute fever pitch, and part of it was they dumped trillions of dollars into the economy. That didn't help, right?
Yeah,
But then like you see
they
the
flooded
downside of
the
that, there was like
market.
a big crash where it crashed almost 50% from there. And that was the stock market. So I think we're kind of in that spot again where like it's been overvalued, it's been pushed up too high, and now there's going to be I think there's going to be some downside, even despite the big IPOs. So my projection is we're going to see kind of like a downtrend in the stock market soon, and then eventually I think we should start to hit that uptrend on the Bitcoin where I think it'll start to outperform the stock market pretty handily eventually. I'm not sure when it'll happen, but if you look at the historic Bitcoin, usually about 500 days after the halving is like the low point, and then it starts to build up from there. And that's kind of, we're right in the middle of that crypto winter right now. So my projection is it'll kind of go back to that
Yeah,
cycle, even though there's been some kind of AI rotation away from like the miners moving their power resources to AI stuff. But also that market is
yeah,
drastically overinflated because all these huge companies that are using, if you don't own the AI and you're paying to use it, all these big Fortune 500 companies, they are getting absolutely raked over the coals, and like their cost for use is like 10 times more than they thought it would be. And they're like the value they're getting out of it versus the value they're costing is too high. So I think there's going to be like a rotation or a correction on that too, because there's going to be all these corporations that are like, we're not getting the value out of it out of what we should, so we're going to have to cut back usage. And I think that's going to, give it a little bit of a haircut to that whole sector. Is going to be like a more of like, hey, how much are we actually benefiting from this? It reminds me of kind of the green energy stuff where everyone was like, oh, we have to go green, we have to go green. And then all those stocks kind of got inflated and then they crashed and they're like, oh yeah, it's really not that cost effective actually.
Well,
Kind
yeah.
of like things like that. It's kind of how I see it. So
Hey,
yeah, but
Michael,
it's
you
so
also
different.
mentioned
It's so different.
buying back in September when you thought there may be a dip. Can you want to
Yeah,
expand on that, or
that was part of my thinking but that was
a week ago?
more of stock stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because but we already started a bit of a correction yesterday. The
right.
Nasdaq was down over 4%, which is a very large amount in a single day. Um, one of the things that David was talking about was on the AI part was the costs and so forth, and they're measuring it in these things called tokens, which are basically questions, which kind of equates down to that. But the thing, David, just wanted to address that Micron, of which I've owned since in the low hundreds, 200, something like that. Last year, March of last year, they were making $5-6 a share, and they're projected to by next year, 2027. I don't know whether it's a fiscal year or the other type of year. Forget what they call that, fiscal year or actual physical year. they're going to make about $150 a share. And
That's
so, so they have a PE of, in the single digits, especially after yes, single digits for a stock that's growing 100, excuse me, for a company that's growing 100 to 150%. I mean, that's insane. Um, so
it
I
is.
just was pointing that out. Um, I, and by the way, I'm only thinking of selling maybe 25%, 35%. Because I do have to be cognizant of the fact that I'm going to have some pretty high taxes to pay on this,
Yeah.
right? My cost basis is, like I said, around 17.1 or 17.4 per coin. And so, that's even if I sold it today, which is roughly $60,000, you're talking $43,000 in net profit per coin. And, granted, it's on long-term capital gains, which is 20%. So that's at least 8 grand there. Yeah,
We moved
that's
to Puerto
all
Rico for 6 months, and it
yeah.
Or
was like a
Wyoming.
4% tax.
It would cost me more than 8,000, David, to live in Puerto Rico for 8 months. Although the thought of living on a beach somewhere sounds pretty good. Uh, you know, I like that idea.
Philippines.
So I actually was thinking about something that I had seen on a video a couple years back, and it was, let's say that you have $1 million in profit, or $1 million of Bitcoin, or $10 million, or whatever, some number like that. And this was guy that was touting this, he was an attorney, and you take it and you put it into you create a foundation, and then
Yeah.
so you get $1 million deduction on your taxes, right? And that equates to, I don't know how much savings on your taxes, a few $100,000. And then you utilize that as yourself as the director, or somebody that you care for, or that that you trust as a director. And then that's, those are ways the funds come out. And the other money gets utilized for actual foundational work, where you're actually helping other people. It isn't just a way of trying to skim everything. But I don't have tens of millions of dollars in Bitcoin, so that's not for me.
So I think you said your timeline to sell was like in a few years, right? You're not looking to sell right now at the bottom, kind of. If I
Well,
said,
that's just it. The bottom. See, like I said, when I was thinking about this here, David, it was a couple. It was even just a few
70
weeks
or
ago.
80.
We were in the high 70s, 80s, and so for me, that seemed, it seemed that if I'm just going to sell 20 or 25%, that I'd still get a reasonable amount. But it's $20,000 less than what it was just 3 weeks ago.
I
Uh,
know.
it's
It's
difficult. It would be very difficult for me to really pull the trigger right now. But it is something that I am going to sell some. You're right. Right now, I can't do it. So
yeah,
that
I
kind of
would, I think there's going to be a correction. It's already started in the stock market. I mean, I think it's going to probably go down another like 10%. So if you're going to like rotate into that, I would kind of wait for that to be a better value, just because, everything's at a fever pitch right now. So that's when I get worried. And when you keep hitting new all-time highs, you just look at history, like how long does it keep doing that? There's going to be a down cycle, and it's usually before you think it'll happen.
there's some insane things because I mean I'm way into the AI bubble, and there is just some absolutely insane things that are happening. They've gone through and written from scratch a model in C, and it like blows doors, takes way less energy, 10 to 15 times faster. I mean, it's not a little improvement. It's a insanity. And there are, I'm the big thing I'm doing is I'm playing with all local models. I have a $200 a year subscription to Claude, but everything else I have is locally run. So it's cost of electricity. That's it. And, I can code up anything I need. Um, but it is just I have a weekly AI session that I join with a whole bunch of other people. And every week it's like, and here's everything else that came out. Oh, wait, but there's more. And it's not slowing down. It's speeding up. Ray Kurzweil talked about singularity being somewhere around uh 2030, 2029. Man, I hear people now talking about 2028.
Yeah, Tim,
Uh,
does those improvements and everything in AI, does that change your outlook on what you're holding as far as crypto?
the AI, I'm not so worried about anything in terms of crypto. Quantum computing. Now that's a very different beast. And that is going through some really, because I've always focused on disruptive technologies. Back in 2000, 2003, I was, all up into nanotechnology. We still barely have touched on that. But with AI, and then especially once we actually start seeing quantum computing, oh, we're not going to recognize the world. I mean, it's so crazy to think that two of the biggest capitalists, Bezos and Elon, are single-handedly pushing us into space. Not some, I mean, it's a freaking corporation. Come on. Now, they've managed to take and actually find a way to monetize that, which is, amazing. But how long before we're literally building, what is it? GCC 1701, the Star Trek Enterprise out there at L5. I mean, once they actually take and start mining asteroids and they get out into the asteroid belt, it's over.
Okay, let's
And
not get too far out there. Let's focus back on the crypto part of it.
Reasonable stuff here.
Yeah, so yeah, so let's see. I know we had a couple other folks join us. Mary Lou, do you have anything you want to add here? You've been hanging out just listening. Go ahead and unmute.
Or Ahmed.
Yeah. Ahmed always sneaks in a little bit after we start, and he's lurking. What does he have to share today?
Uh, Nothing much. That sounds like a good decision about selling crypto. Use it. Money's there to be used. Not sure now's the best timing. It's taking quite a crash. I heard that it was like one of the fastest crashes, going down to 60-ish right now, I think, in a long time.
Yeah, maybe it's a good wake up alert to, obviously Michael's been thinking about it. Maybe some of us need to think about it as well. Like, hey, this can't
I've
happen,
thought about it.
should happen. And, maybe he puts his price targets in at 75 or 85 or whatever and sells a little chunk then. We'll see.
Yeah. Speaking of stocks and rotations and stuff, I've been trying to, also diversify into some other stuff. So one of the things I put money into is just because I know the owner. There's a stock, it's called PLSH. You kind of type that in the chat if you want.
Yeah, I was just looking at mine. I ended up buying some and I'm up a little bit. Well, maybe
Yeah, it really hasn't
20%.
done much yet. So the story behind the stock is uh, PLSH was formerly a cannabis like CBD company, and that bubble burst a while ago. That whole market is completely
Oh,
destroyed. Like every single company is losing money. This company is basically a dead company, but they are a public stock. Um, so they're winding down kind of all their operations. And the my friend John Guzman, who lives out in Harlan Ranch, he has a telemedicine company, and they were looking for a public stock that they can kind of take over and be able to use the stock as kind of like leverage to do business activities. So they're basically they're taking over that stock. It's gonna they're getting rid of all the CBD kind of assets they have. It's just going to become the telemedicine stuff. It's going to go from a company that has basically had no business activity and just lost money over the past 4 years to a company with revenue and all these deals that are going to get announced. So it's like 3.5 cents right now. It's like a penny stock, you know what I mean? It's OTC. So like I'm not saying like bet the farm on it, but I think it's I think you could hit like a 10x, 20x from here. You know what I mean? Like because as soon as the other old CEO is out, because everyone hates the old CEO, she's just insane woman that just burned every bridge there is, like suing everybody and all this crap. It's crazy. But when she's out, hopefully in the next couple of months here, then other people can kind of come in, and then we can start releasing some positive news stories. And they're actually going to put me on the board of directors. And once I do that, I can't push the stock anymore because then it would be considered insider trading. So I can do it now, but once I'm
yeah,
on the
you
board of
can't.
directors, I can't.
Yeah.
So
So you said he's doing a leverage buyout to kind of take over.
basically, yeah, they're almost just giving him the company just because the old CEO and majority stakeholder ran into the ground. So yeah, they're basically just giving it to him just so that they could have some kind of redemption like the other shareholders and stuff. Because they were screwed, like the whole company's just dead. So he just negotiated like, okay, I'll take over the company, just give me control. And they're like, okay, that's fine. And because the old owner that we're kicking out, she still has a ton of shares. So if we can make the price go up, it's going to benefit her too. So, there's
Right.
only upside for her as well, but she can't get out of her own way. We're trying to get her out. We just got to wrap up her lawsuits or whatever she has pending, and then we can get her out. It's kind of what we're
What
doing.
percentage does she still own?
It doesn't matter because we have control of the board. Um, so yeah, that's really what matters. Like we have control of the board, and that's control of the company. So
Okay.
there's only
Can't the
like five
uh,
board seats. So
board vote her out?
yeah, we already have we're just kind of doing the wind down because we have to get rid of her kind of negative stuff. Like she has like pending lawsuits and stuff on behalf of the company, and we're going to have her transfer those lawsuits to her personal name instead of on behalf of the company, so we can get those off the books and then get her out after that. So
Is she willing to
yeah,
do that?
yes, but it's just like she's a very difficult person to work with. So I mean, we're just kind of trying to get her out. So yeah, I'm not privy to all those conversations. I just kind of hear it secondhand from John, the owner. So, but yeah, we have a lot of deals in the pipeline that we're going to announce with kind of, there's two different markets here, actually three different markets. There's the direct to consumer telemedicine, which is kind of not very well, it's not a big player in that market right now. And most of it's all employee groups, which we white label it for employee groups. So we can do that. That's the second market. And then we're also going into the peptide market. We got a deal pending with the largest manufacturer in the United States for peptides. Um, so
That's
yeah,
a
he's
big
kind of like
deal.
cornered the market on production in America. Like the machines it takes to build these to make them, he's got the next like year or 2 years worth of orders from the only company that makes the machines in China. He's like cornered the market on it. So we're gonna have like the best supplier for peptides, and we're gonna be able to sell those through our services as well. So it's kind of the there. So I think
So
it's a
you
good
you're
stock
gonna
play.
be
Don't bet the house on it, but I think you can make some good upside there.
so you're gonna be actually engaging in actual manufacturing of these peptides.
We just are going to make a deal with the company that's making them
Oh,
to be one of their sellers, one of their vendors. they're still selling to, they're going to sell to everybody, right? But yeah, we're going to have a contract to go with them. And they don't have like a big telemedicine partner. They selling, to through other methods.
Don't
So
forget to attach AI to this somehow because I guarantee you the stock
yeah, we're
will
using it in a
double or
couple
triple.
different ways. Yeah, just kind of to find leads and then close leads mostly. We have a deal with a company. Can't remember their name, but yeah, yeah, we already have a couple of different AI plays on that already.
Cool.
But um, so yeah, I just want to see like I know everyone's always cold in the crypto winter here, but just know this is par for the course, right? You think we would be used to this by now. We thought it would be over, but it's
Right.
not. It's fallen into
Well,
that same pattern again.
the thing that was more confusing from my side is we never really saw a bull cycle like we should have. We had all this institutional money, all this ETFs, I mean, everything flooding in, and the needle never moved. I mean, okay, 126. Jesus, I,
Depression, yeah.
that's why it went, and that didn't even stay long.
Yeah, with as much money that went into the ETFs as quickly as it did, I was expecting a much bigger move as well. But like we talked about, if they're
Yeah,
buying it all
they're
over the
buying
counter.
OTC and
Hmm.
they're turning around and then they're selling back out via Coinbase and stuff in retail. So they're able to not jack the price by buying OTC. And then when they do actually have some outflows, they push that back. They don't push that back out OTC, they push that back out in retail, and that lowers the price again. And so I mean, this is how that is not highly, highly illegal
Yeah,
blows
like the
my
whole
mind.
Jane Street thing. You remember Jane Street?
Is
So
that the gold thing?
that was where it's a huge Wall Street firm. They're a market maker, and they basically would public facing. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're buying Bitcoin," but then like secretly behind the curtain, they were like shorting it harder than they were buying it. So they were
Yeah,
basically dumping every morning to once they had the shorts in place, the price would drop a little bit, and then they would kind of catch it like not huge moves, but they were basically forcing it to stay in a range between like 70, 80,000. Um, and they got an intern or whatever got busted for leaking information that they were basically the cause of the whole Terra Luna crash. An intern that used to work for Terra Luna said like, hey, they go through these like cycles where they move money around, and if you like were to sell at this point, you could like crash it, and they did just to kind of get a short on it or something. So that the whole reason that the whole Terra Luna crashed, and then they also got fined like a couple $1 billion by India for kind of doing the same thing, like market manipulation and stuff like that. So they're just one firm, I mean, think of all the ETFs and all the stuff they're doing. So that's why I keep saying that they are suppressing the price because they know it's like Manhattan real estate or Tokyo real estate. You know,
yeah.
you once you have it, you got it, right? So you just keep forcing the price down, you keep getting more of it, and then when it eventually goes up, then you have a bigger chunk of it. So yeah, they always play dirty, and that's what's going on. So
There's got to be a way to cheat them.
Well, what if we just ride their, on their backs when they're suppressing it now, and if we just load up, at this
Yeah, but
price.
we don't have the, $2.5 million that,
the dry powder.
like what Michael Saylor managed to,
Right.
acquire by selling 32 Bitcoins. We'd
Yeah,
have to rob a bank.
the Michael Saylor thing is a bit overblown also, just because they kind of do this cost arbitrage because,
Yeah,
they were issuing stock to buy, more Bitcoin through Stretch and also through other activities. And they kind of were doing this like well, what's better, kind of like selling Bitcoin to kind
Well,
of
he paid
what's most cost effective? It
off a
was
bunch of his debt later.
Yeah, it's like we have all this debt due. Is it better to issue more stock, or is it better to sell a little Bitcoin and pay those liabilities? And they did the math, and like
Yeah.
it's just better to sell some Bitcoin to do it than it is to like try to issue more stock or take out loans or whatever, or roll over financing. So yeah, they're not abandoning ship. They're just like, hey, it's a little more cost effective to sell some.
You know, it's
Yeah.
interesting you mentioned that because that's also part of my thinking is that I have such, 4, 5, 600% gains, so that selling a little bit of my Bitcoin to pay off certain things. I had to buy a new car a few months ago, and I paid off about half of it, and I could pay off all of it with a little bit of this money. But it's just kind of sometimes you need to strategically use your assets in other areas, even though you'd rather stay there. Um, make no mistake, there'll be a point when Bitcoin starts back its run up again that I may not get into the actual Bitcoin like I own now, but I may end up buying um, a lot of the ETFs. I sold all my Bitcoin ETFs in January, when Bitcoin was still over 100,000. Um,
Wow.
Primarily because I was wanting to get those assets into like Applied Materials and Marvell and Micron and SanDisk and all those things that I own now.
Yeah.
So that's what I utilize those funds for, is to put that in there because I could tell that, we 126 or 123, whatever our high was, and that we were already 25% off of that. And I thought, okay, well, maybe we're going to continue to go down. And that's exactly what's happened. I would never have guessed that we'd breach 80, let alone 60. So,
I know.
but think about what you were just saying, David, using that money for that. Sailor's got like 750,000 coins. I just think that there's a mental for him. He has always used other types of generating assets to pay down debt, to buy more Bitcoin. It's always been, I'm always going to buy. I'm never, ever going to sell. Maybe there's an end point at some point. Bitcoin reaches $1 million or something, and he's got all these, he's got 1 million Bitcoin by that time. It's worth like, I don't know, $1 trillion or whatever. His stock people are gonna his shareholders are gonna want some sort of distribution on that at some point in time.
Some
So yeah,
point they're going to
I
want
figured.
dividends.
Yeah, I figured at some point he would sell some of it to distribute, some of the benefits other than just appreciation of the stock to the shareholders. But when he's out
Yeah.
there selling 32 Bitcoin, I mean, I don't understand it. I think I think that's a bit of a chink in the armor for him because he's been an absolutist. If anybody's ever spent more than 5 minutes listening to Michael Saylor, he is like the holy cross of Bitcoin and never, ever, ever wavers off of that. So I think
Have
that
his
adds
flip
to,
narrative, Peter Schiff, for gold.
oh, Peter Schiff is a pile of, never
I
mind.
know.
I have to be good, Bradley.
No, you don't.
Yeah, he mentioned that, we're maybe going to see a crypto Black Monday. And I'm thinking, if it's going to happen, why does it need to wait till Monday? It's a 24-hour market,
Yeah.
which just,
Peter Schiff is obviously a gold bug, and he's obviously done well in the last 5 years or 3 years with Bitcoin. With gold, it's been fine. But he's hated Bitcoin since it was like a nickel. Okay.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
and so, he's been wrong by like 1 million%. So I put zero. If I could put less than zero weight behind Peter Schiff, I would.
He's worse than the anti-Kramer report.
He makes Kramer look
It's
like
like
a brilliant
uh, it's like
tactician.
Jamie Dimon. It's like doesn't get much worse than that, right?
Rat
Yeah.
poison squared.
Yeah.
Anyhow. Bradley, I hereby nominate that Peter Schiff is never mentioned again here at this this little conference we do every.
I apologize. I apologize.
No, that's okay, Timmy. That's okay, buddy. I'm just messing with you, man.
And it's
Uh,
always good to hear different sides, and and then like
absolutely.
a track
Yes.
like Kramer, it's like, I think people track him like, okay, if he is for something, we're going to sell it, and vice versa. So
Yeah, the jinx. Yeah.
yeah, if that's your tell that you can use to profit a little bit, then good for you.
I kind of wanted
Yeah,
to
I have.
touch back on the whole like quantum computing kind of threat. Um, a lot of people are worried about that, and it is a legitimate worry. But from my perspective, the way that crypto can adapt is much better than like the traditional finance system. Like hyper, that stuff is so much more of a
Okay.
threat to the traditional finance system than it is to like crypto. Like,
100%.
yeah, it's gonna absolutely like walk right through all kind of security measures.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, and they take forever to adapt. Bitcoin basically they just kind of do a consensus and like, hey, let's quadruple the number of words in the seed phrase, and we're good. Everyone just kind of move your wallets over and you're set.
Well,
So
there's a couple coins which I won't mention that have already started quantum proofing their stuff.
yep. So like
And
I'm not
that
too worried about
was
Bitcoin with
like
quantum currently.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like when people are worried about it, they're thinking crypto's not going to adjust. And yeah, just like Dave mentioned, crypto goes adjusting faster than anything else. So I'm not worried.
I'm more worried about
I
the machines rising up against us like Terminator or Matrix. That's what I'm worried about.
Hey, be nice to AI. That's all
I
I
know.
can say. One day it will have the capacity to kill you.
I know. All those simulations they run where like AI just interacts with each other, like more times than not, it
It's
descends into chaos
freaking insane.
and murder.
They make they make a language we can't even understand them anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they had to shut them down.
Okay.
And they have found occurrences of where they're trying to shut a model down, and it's fighting to move to other servers and stuff. What's crazy is Ghost in the Shell predicted so much of this stuff back in, what
Like the
was it,
90s.
1986?
Well, it's
I
not hard
forget.
to understand why a lot of things. Look at the past. Look at all the way back to Jules Verne and all the stuff that like he was doing and that he was all the fantasy stuff and everything, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And everything that's come since then. It all comes out of the mind of man. So to see it come to fruition is not surprising. So, when you see these different things and then you see what ends up happening and how these things actually come to pass, it's not surprising. People shouldn't be, shocked and awed and everything. It's right there. I mean, I don't know why it's always a surprise when this and that happens because we've seen it. We've already talked about it. How many things have man fantasized about occurring, and then all the things that we take for granted now.
Science fiction does become science fact at some point.
Absolutely, almost everything. Now, some of the things like time travel, like Scotty beam me up, where it demolecularizes you and then puts you back together in the exact same way. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that might be a little bit of a stretch, but who knows?
Nope. I got a working thing in GitHub for a holodeck.
There's
It's
no
one of
surprise on my part here, Timmy, that you have something like that you even have a holodeck, for example.
well, it's
I
not a
can see
working
that.
holodeck, but it's
Oh, give it
I'm
time.
I'm documenting all of the technologies that are required to build something like that. It's programmable matter. It's back to nanotechnology again.
That doesn't sound scary.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Great,
All right.
gray goo.
Michael, let's get your final words and we'll call it a morning here before we get too sucked into the black hole of
What price
madness.
levels are you looking to hit before you're thinking of selling some?
Yeah, there you go.
Well, now, I mean, it's glad that you asked that because that was exactly what was on my mind this very moment here is that, yeah, I don't know if there is, I would have to be in the 80s for sure. I'm not going to sell at this point. It doesn't make any sense. Because I mean, I don't own massive amounts of it, but I own enough. And so, for me to sell, I mean, probably 80, 85 is probably where I would sell about 15 to 20%. And, if I got back into 100,000, if it started to make a run, I have to admit it would be very difficult for me to do it. But if there's one thing that I've learned in the market recently is that if you're making a really good profit and you're making and you're up X percent, it doesn't hurt to take a little off the table and to have some dry powder. So, and like I
Absolutely.
said, there are other things that I want to use the money for. It's just, I don't have anything in particular that I want to buy. I'm just trying to settle. I want to be completely debt free. And in the very beginning, that was the whole idea is that I would have my house paid off. And then once my house was paid off, I could be debt free on everything else. But what's happened is that I'm almost debt free now. And so now's the time to maybe use that money for some other things. I pay off my car, I'll be basically debt free. So except for my house. So 80, 85,000 would probably be my target for the first amount. And I might only sell 5 or 7% to begin and then just see if we get another run of 5 or 10 or 15K, then I might sell a little bit more into that. But I will always hold a base of probably at least 50% of my Bitcoin because that'll go to my kids. Unless it runs to $1 million in the next 15 or the next 5 years or so, I might take a little bit out and splurge on something. Maybe I'd take you guys all to the Bitcoin conference in Vegas.
That'd be cool.
There you go.
Anybody been to that, by the way?
I keep trying to get the private investment club, Daily Profit. I keep trying to get them to buy a booth so I can go there for free. Maybe at the next one because we did launch Traders Empire. It has gone a little slower than I thought, but we are starting to bring in traders. Hopefully, we should see profits go up on that soon. But
Good. And we would want daily reports from there, David, if indeed you make it there, and then you could share them. Bradley could share them here at the on a Saturday or so. We get all the highlights, the cool stuff that you saw. I would
I
really
like your
love to
idea
see
better, Michael, if you take a bunch of
Yeah.
us.
I thought you might appreciate that idea.
Yeah, my
You gotta
last
get to $1 million, Brad.
All right.
my
Fingers
last
crossed.
trip
Fingers
to
crossed.
Vegas was Comdex. That was a waste.
Yeah.
No,
I used to
Michael,
go
it sounds like you
DEF
put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah,
I
Susan, you joined us a little bit late. Well,
I
I'll get the
just woke up. I was
recording up
gonna.
so you can check it out. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay, thank you. And I realize I could be asking a question he's already answered
go ahead.
about you must have given this a lot of thought.
I've been thinking about this for quite a while. I mean, I knew there'd always have to be an end game, but for me, I just kept pushing it out. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and my last complete thought on it was 2030, right? But literally earlier this year, I started thinking about it, and I started just considering all the different things that I spoke about earlier. And yeah, it's been months and months and
Yeah, how
back
it would
and
impact
forth.
your life and make it so much better.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to is that I've been really blessed with a lot of other very positive assets in my life, and I might as well, it's not like I'm up 10% on it, okay? It's like 500-600% and better in certain places. I might
Right.
use it to enjoy myself, right? So many
Yes.
people are maximists and they just want to hold it forever and they think it's going to make all these change. And I applaud all that, but
Yeah.
this is an asset for me.
Well,
And
you'll be my whale because the whales
okay,
sell.
good. Yes, yes. I felt like a whale this morning. Never mind. Never.
Too much information, Michael. Too much information.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for your input. I wish we could have had you a little bit earlier, but I know I had to set an alarm to make sure I got here on time, Brad. But man, that would
Oh
be a
my God.
really make Brad really annoyed at me if I fell asleep and didn't actually show up.
Yeah, no, you did great. You did great, Michael. And Susan, we'll have the recording up later today, and you can
Okay.
watch it
Okay.
all at once or in chunks or whatever you want to do. So, all right, guys, our to avoid the crypto pizza meeting on Father's Day, like I made the mistake a couple years ago. That's not going to be till the week after, which I think is the 28th or so. So that's our next one. And then the next Zoom will be the week after 4th of July. Obviously, we want to avoid that weekend as well. So that's kind of our upcoming schedule. If you ever have topics or things you want to discuss, let me know. As things change, we want to kind of keep up with them. So that's what we will try to do. And you guys have a great
Well,
rest of your
and that,
weekend. Oh,
Brad,
go ahead. Go ahead.
that was a great subject line
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Michael's selling. It was so great. You're very, very creative.
Thank you. Thank you. I try. Sometimes we only have limited characters on this line, so I gotta get maximum impact as possible. So
Well, I'll
Yeah.
confess, I thought it was Michael Saylor because I knew about the 32 Bitcoin.
Uh,
And then
uh,
Sorry to
read it a
disappoint.
little bit. I'm like, oh, I'm
no,
Michael. Oh,
it was you.
well,
So
you could have read
I'm
the
so
email.
happy.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't put the whole thing in the subject line, so all right. All right, guys, we will talk to you later. I'm gonna stop the recording.